Where does your scepticism come from?
Well, in terms of sort of my history, I used to be a very devout Christian when I was younger, but didn't have a Christian family, didn't have Christian friends. I had one good Christian friend, but it came from a Bible reading class when I was young. It was a sort of unpleasant childhood indoctrination. But because I grew up without a Christian peer group, when I got to university, it was relatively easy for me to kind of sort of think my way out of it in a way, to sort of start to challenge it and not feel too much guilt. I mean, and I started to learn hypnosis at the time. That was the sort of the first stepping stone to what I'm doing now. And I had all these Christians terribly upset and offended that I was doing it because it sort of ushered in demons, as far as they, which to me I kind of thought, well, if you believe that God created us, surely the mind is the pinnacle of that creation. So why looking at the mind in any way would be seen as demonic and a bad thing? I didn't really understand, let alone, if you don't understand hypnosis, how can you say it ushers in demons? And I know I understand it better than they did. So that was a strange kind of, I realised there was just this fear issue with anything that was misunderstood. And the New Age industry at that time was really blossoming, and it was a real bête noire to the fairly rabid pastors that I had and saw at churches. But because at the same time I was getting into magic, and through magic realising how things like tarot cards and psychics really work, and that there's nothing mystical about it that could therefore be seen as dangerous, but it's just simply just sort of rubbish and charlatanism and psychology at work. Two things happened. One, I realised that I talked to psychics, and I'd listen to their sort of circular belief, and I'd think, well, I am just doing exactly the same thing as a Christian. The only difference is it's easier to sort of laugh at them because it's a fringe belief, whereas my belief is so much more endorsed institutionally that it's more respectable. But I thought, well, I'm just being a hypocrite. So I started to read some theology texts and books about sort of how the Bible really kind of came together, and a kind of a mixture of books that I hope would at least challenge my easy, pat answers that I had as a young Christian. And I felt that if I could undo all the easy answers, if I just had a bunch of questions, that I might actually be able to build a much stronger, more defensible faith from it. And then that just sort of didn't happen. It just all seemed silly, and I realised there was no going back. And once you accept that the Bible isn't a historical account of things that have happened, then you're sort of left with no basis for it at all. From that, then, I wanted to defend my non-belief as strongly as I felt that I should have been able to defend it as a believer. So that's something that's been left with me. And on the back of that and off the back of the magic, a sort of an understanding how these supposedly paranormal industries work, I think you end up just feeling, well, there's information. Being open-minded isn't about accepting things mindlessly. Being open-minded is about having the information and then making the best decisions you can. If a chap called Ian Rowland, who wrote a good book on cold reading, made the point that if you're a chef and you think, well, I know if I put poison in this soup and give it to these 200 people, it's going to kill them. But hey, I'll be open-minded. That's not being open-minded. That's just being ignorant. That's just not working with the information you've got. So we have information on things like placebo effect and information like cold reading, and these things exist, and false memories and anecdotal and all those things that are important. And taking that on board is just about being able to make better decisions. That's about being truly open-minded. Ignoring them and putting them to one side in this sort of pursuit of easy answers and intuition as the be-all and end-all of truth. That's not being open-minded at all. I think that's very narrow-minded. And certainly to laugh at people that say that evidence is important, I think that's hypocrisy of the worst kind to call them narrow-minded.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. No, real pleasure. Thank you. Thanks.